Ballroom Blitz. Damn it, Tran. Jones leaned on the bar counter. She felt the pounding of the music as it rattled. Her fingers curled, scraping her nails against the stained stainless steel. I thought you could move anything. She gave the impression of a hushed whispering, but she had practically had the show to be heard over the neo-industrial cover of an early century pop song. Tran wiped the glass with practiced indifference. He kept her waiting as long as he felt it was safe. She had a reputation, not for violent outbursts, but for getting solutions. That might be worse. People like that are a lot less likely to break your nose when frustrated. They would tear through your life with a ruthless velocity if you stayed in their path for long. Mutual interest was the glue of their relationship, and Tran was keen to keep it that way, if he could. If this is what I think it is, he said, looking at the plastic sleeve envelope under Jones's thumb, it would be suicide for me to pick that up. His gaze unwavering, he found the danger hypnotic, like a swaying cobra. The intense heat from the package drew beads of sweat on his forehead. They're looking for it, he said, pausing briefly, Dad. And you. I know. She glanced over her shoulder. The flashing lights, humid Sagad fog, and writhing dancers camouflaged her. But so too they hid any potential predator that hid in the mist of sweat and spilled cocktails. So you also know that anyone who tries to fence that disc would be placing themselves at the end of a kill chain, leading back to whose ever idiot idea this was. He smiled with grim satisfaction. I thought you would have been smarter than this. There isn't a kill chain, Jones informed him. Klein is dead. Shit, he fucked up, huh? Don't know. He's dead when I found him. She shrugged. Could have been a hit, could have been a suicide. Looked like an OD. Not an accident? Judging from the needle, I don't think a human being could survive that. You'd have to be lobotomized to think you could. Over the sound of music came high-pitched screams. It took a second for Jones to realize that it wasn't someone having fun with a romantic rival's face. She dropped to her knees with prescient fear. The beat of music was punctuated by gunfire. Jones overended a table. It wouldn't stop the gunfire, but it might hide her. People desperately scrambled for an exit as they were gunned down by sustained SMG fire. A blood-curdling laugh of utter delight rang through the chaos. Jones spotted 3 of the gunmen. They were dressed like alley punks, but sporting a much higher pay grade. The Psycho Squad, reasoned Jones aloud. Likely this was a corporate hit squad that specialized in creating terror. It fit their MO. Someone must have... Where the fuck did Tran go? Getting the hell out of Dodge was her only option. These weren't some rookie operators. They had access to all the toys, including being hopped up on drugs that raised their reflexes to superhuman levels and gave them an intolerable tolerance to pain. Besides, her sidearm wasn't going to outcompete a squad of SMGs in a bullet spraying contest. She leapt over the counter. Over there! The words hit her only an instant before the shards of glass from disintegrated bottles came raining down. Jones wasted not a second. She knew going through the back door to the offices would give away her position. However, the alternative would seem to lie down and die. Offices it is. She scrambled down the hallway with only rudimentary caution because of the floating awareness that somewhere there was likely a 4th heavily drugged psychopath with an SMG and poor trigger discipline. She rounded a corner and heard the door slam behind her, followed by shrill laughter. She had no time to look for Tran Van Nguyen. She slammed through the door and found herself in an extremely narrow alleyway. Then she saw it. Gas tank. She gave herself some distance and then... It wasn't like in the movies. There was some fire, but what you felt was the force of the explosion. It knocked her to her knees. The next instant, she was back on her feet. Shit! It was a man's voice. Probably Slavic, maybe Polish. Quite a set of lungs to be heard over the ambience. The explosion probably didn't take them out, but the resulting damage to the building would probably force them to reroute. There's something primal about fire that inspires an irrational fear in humans, even those who are using drugs to suppress their pain reactions. Jones ran headlong down the alleyway. Her hand brushed against her jacket pocket to feel the dull outline of the disc, and suddenly, she was flat on her back and her jaw hurt. A tall man, likely of North African descent, was standing over her. She didn't even see his attack. Bad night to party, sweetheart, he said through a chuckle. He left his groin questionably unprotected. However, Jones knew that kicking him there would do little good. Fucking pain inhibitors. She only had one move to make before it was game over. She gambled on his shin. Using his high center of gravity against him, she put all she could into toppling him. She could see him adjusting as he fell. There was a cruelty to his face instead of the shock of a person whose shin was knocked out from underneath him. He started to swing at Jones, not making the amateur's move of drawing a weapon at striking distance. However, she was quick too. As he connected with her ribs, she attacked his elbow. This removed his brace against the fall. He crashed down in front of her. It brought her an instant, and in that instant, she was back on her feet. She grabbed what was on hand, a trash can beside the dumpster. It was made of a hard plastic shell, which made a satisfying sound as she smashed against his head. He screamed, surrounded by white paper soaked translucent by oil and partially degraded plastics. It wasn't a scream of pain. It was a scream of frustration and of defeat. His eyes were bright red, and Jones had an idea what was in that oil. She squeezed twice and watched as the smooth contours of a human skull distorted under the sudden force of violent apprehension of the man's mortality. Leaving the SMG, it was definitely biolocked and perhaps tracked. She took through the night. She didn't really care for rifling through the pockets of corpses anyhow, and when dealing with corporate assets, it generally did more harm than good. The humidity created a haze around the lights in the darkness. She was really careful for a couple blocks, until she was confident the night had swallowed her up. Her sides hurt more than it should. She wanted to get it looked at. She also wanted a change of clothes. What she would settle for is a cheap room in one of the hourly places for the party-hard foreigners around Bouvienne. The type of place that doesn't ask questions. Questions were the last thing she wanted and the only thing she had.